participants, sorry for the slight deviation in our schedule. Actually, tomorrow, the scheduled lecture of tomorrow on rubrics and evaluation by Ms. Amandeep Kaur will be actually taken today. So, because as you told, whatever the pedagogical interventions that we actually make in our teaching learning process, correspondingly, we have to change the process of evaluation, assessment, and the corresponding rubric. So, in this regard, the concepts of the evaluation and rubric that is covered by Ms. Amandeep Kaur will be very helpful to you to understand the principles of these evaluation criteria to be applied and deployed at different stages. So I now request Ms. Amandeep Kaur to take over the session.
Thank you very much, sir. So, dear participants, we have covered in the last classes yesterday, we have covered blended learning and the different models for blended learning, in which we are able to know that blended learning is a environment where the teacher is using direct instructions, and at the same time, when it comes to blended learning, the teacher will rotate the student beyond any of the platform that is available at institute level or with the students also. So in some of the blended learning classes, or say in a flipped classroom, students are working in group, and in blended learning also, when the teacher is giving direct instructions to the student, the teacher can either use cooperative learning strategies and collaborative learning strategy. So when the students are working in teams and group, and when the activities are designed by the teacher in such a large amount, there many of the students are participating, performing in a class time only. Hence, the evaluation, the assessment of the student needs to be carried out by the teacher so that his or her performance, or in simple words, the quality of the work can be improved. So that is why rubric is being introduced as an evaluation tool for our students based on the criteria of outcome-based education. So with the help of rubric, it is possible for the faculty to evaluate students in all sense, starting from their cognitive ability, their psychomotor ability.
Hello.
Hello.
Ma'am, there is a bit of audio breakage, ma'am. If you could just mute yourself and unmute again, because sometimes
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you very much. So dear participants, so for this session, we are going to cover a very important criteria of assessment that is known as rubrics. Rubric is basically a scoring tool that is used for the evaluation of a student performance. It helps us to improve not only the assessment processes that we carried out at our institute level, but with the help of rubric, it is possible for the teacher to improve the performance of the students gradually. So keeping this in view, this particular session is being organized for all of you in this particular course. So now I'll start with the presentation. So what we mean by rubric. So whenever we are designing any evaluation or any assessment criteria, the one thing that we need to understand is when it comes to evaluation and assessment, what is the difference between evaluation and assessment? So many of the faculty members are using these terminologies interchangeably, but as far as evaluation and assessment is concerned, these all together are the different things. So my dear participants, do you know what is the difference between evaluation and assessment before I proceed further for rubric? Yes, any participant can reply. What's the difference between evaluation and assessment?
One participant replied feedback. So when it comes to feedback, feedback can be given to the students formally. It can be given to the students informally also. So feedback is the way to improve the performance of the student. That is true. Feedback is related to evaluation. After conducting evaluation or assessment, we provide feedback to the student. One participant replied, assessment is a continuous process. Yes. When it comes to assessment, assessment is a continuous process. It is not compulsory that the numerical score or grade is associated with assessment. Why we assess our student in day-to-day activities in classroom situations, when the students are working, or on an online platform, when I provided an ungraded quiz to my student, my purpose is to assess the performance of the student, to monitor their performance. So assessment is a continuous process. Some of the activities can be graded, some of the activities can be non-graded. Why the teacher is assessing the student? To increase the quality of the instructions, to improve the instructional planning and delivery, and at the same time give opportunities to the students to improve the performance of the work. That is why there is an assessment. When it comes to evaluation, evaluation means a numerical score, a grade, a rank, a merit is provided to the student, means the student do not have chances to improve upon. So we will provide a clear-cut picture to the student. Say, for example, there are 60 students available in my class. After conducting internal test 1, when I said to my class student that yes, roll number 1, 2, and 3 are the toppers of the test and rest of the students are in so and so category. So I am evaluating my student. But when in a classroom, I simply provide multiple choice question in a quiz form, and that quiz is non-graded. Maybe my purpose is to know the skills or the knowledge my students already carried in class. So I am assessing my student. Another very simple example to understand the difference of evaluation and assessment is when I said roll number 10 got 17 marks out of 20, and that's it. So that roll number, that student come to know that he is able to score this much of the marks. But when I said you are able to get 17 marks, but rest of your class students are not very good performer in that particular test. Excuse me. So rest of the students are not very good performers in that test. It means I'm providing a picture to the students that at what rank or what merit the students are carrying. So I'm comparing one student with another. That is an evaluation, and evaluation means the score of that activity is going to be added into the final score sheet of the student. When we talk about our Indian technical education system, either diploma college, degree colleges, or the institutions who also offered masters or master's level program, in this particular case, our evaluation is divided into two different parts: internal evaluation and external evaluation. As far as internal evaluation is concerned, when the criteria is fixed by the policy makers or the university or by board, it means an academic criteria is defined, but how I'm going to provide weightage to those different dimensions that is described in that policy, that flexibility is given to the institute. Say, for example, in many of the institutions, some of the faculty members provide marks for the attendance also in their internal evaluation criteria. Rest of the institution do not follow that kind of a criteria. So more or less the flexibility in internal evaluation is with the faculty members of your department. And at the same time, when it comes to internal evaluation, all kind of activities, all kind of test has been designed by the faculty only. But when it comes to an external evaluation in India, as far as external evaluation system is concerned, there is another faculty who is teaching a subject. Another set of faculty members are setting up a question paper for that class. There are external members who are evaluating those answer script, and in some of the cases when the student apply for re-evaluation, another faculty member from any institution can re-evaluate those answer scripts. So the purpose of this particular discussion is when we discuss about rubric, in this particular case, when we discuss about the rubric today, in this particular case, we are not going to design rubric for our external evaluation criteria. Why we are not going to design rubric or discuss rubric for our external evaluation criteria? Because there are number of stakeholders that are involved in that. As your internal evaluation is concerned, it is possible for the faculty, it is possible for the department to introduce that criteria, because that internal evaluation is designed by the teachers only of your department. So keeping this in view, why we are not able to design rubric for external evaluation? Because there are number of stakeholders involved in that evaluation. Why we are able to involve in internal evaluation? Because more or less internal evaluation criteria is being decided at a departmental level. So when we discuss rubric, you come to know that why in Indian education system till date we are not able to identify various ways and means by which it is possible for us to change our external evaluation also. Manisha, my screen is not visible.
Ma'am, if you could just go to the presentation, you are currently on your browser now. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Manisha. So from where this word name given to this particular evaluation tool, rubric means red earth for coloring. Rubric is basically a Latin word. In our Indian technical education system, when it comes to rubric, say for example, you divide your institution time into three different segments. First is your class time, second is teachers on time or faculty on time, and third is the students on time. What we are doing in our classes? In Indian technical education system, till date, 90% of the classes are used for the exposure of an information. So when I said exposure of an information, means more or less many of the faculty members are using traditional approaches of teaching. They are using lecture method only. There are very few faculty members who are well trained in terms of using different cooperative and collaborative teaching strategies in a classroom situation. Say some of the faculty members said we are using PowerPoint presentation method. PowerPoint presentation is not a method. The method is known as a seminar method, and there are many limitations of that particular method. How to design that activity, what kind of activity we need to give our student, how much time is relevant according to the content decide, according to the type of the students in your class. Means for the third semester, the seminar have a different kind of objective. For a 7th semester student, the seminar activity have a different kind of objective. So more or less, we are not trained in these kind of teaching strategies, but we are using these kind of teaching strategies in a classroom situation. When I said seminar method, the students are not providing or exposing us with the new information. It means students are just following the cooked recipe from the different resources or from the references that is being given by the faculty. So that is not a teaching approach need to be used either for the student or for the faculty. When it comes to rubric, in rubric, it is being said that if you want to shift your evaluation system towards rubric, it means you have to provide target specific tasks to your student. So what we mean by target specific task, the task which enable us to evaluate not only the cognitive and psychomotor ability of our student, but the task that help us as a faculty to evaluate the behavior, to evaluate the responses of the students also. Say for example, in laboratory practices, we are providing marks to our students. We are evaluating our students on the basis of their general behavior. So many of the faculty members said that why this 2 marks is given to a XYZ student, because the student was very much punctual and regular in the activities. The student is able to use material, workstation was very proper. It means that faculty is considering behavior of the student also an important component to consider. So when it comes to rubric means the cognitive evaluation, the psychomotor evaluation, and the affective domain of the students also need to be evaluated at institute level. When in your evaluation, behavior become an important dimension, you are able to change, you are able to modify the behavior of that learner. That is the major purpose of education. So if I'm able to modify or change the behavior of that particular candidate, it means that institute is able to develop hard skills and soft skills among that candidate. So rubric fulfill all these kind of criteria. If at my class 90% of the time I just use for the exposure of an information, so when my students are going to process that amount of information, so that amount of information will be processed by the student in their own personal time, maybe while sitting at home or maybe in hostels, where the teacher is not available with the student to guide that how to perform this activity. Many a times the faculty members put 100% of the effort to design an activity, but after the submission from the student, the faculty member said, my students are not able to understand what I'm trying to convey. My students are not able to fulfill my expectations. Why this is so? Because you are providing new information to the students. The students are processing that information in their own personal time, where no feedback is given to the students that how to perform this activity. So students are failed to fulfill our expectations. Whatever the task, whatever activities, internal question papers or test, surprise test, quizzes that has been designed by the teacher is performing all these activity either in their academic time or also in their personal time. And once these activities flow towards students, after the completion, these activities again come back to the teacher, and teachers spend number of hours to evaluate the different activities. Say for example, in the initial phase of your semester, you are provided a written assignment to your student, and your student submit that assignment maybe in the mid of the semester, because end date was not finalized by you at the time when the activity was given to the student. So in the middle of the semester, when your head of department call you and said, give me the record of XYZ student, so hurriedly we evaluate all those activities and give marks to the student. So that is not an ethical practice need to be used by the faculty. So teacher is also busy, student is also busy. Teacher, along with the teaching activities, academic activities, teachers are performing many of the administrative activities, and at the same time teacher need to have a professional growth also. It means teacher is also busy, student is also busy, classes are used for the exposure of information. Where is the time to evaluate or assess your students? So the first thing that we need to consider whenever I'm going to shift my evaluation criteria with rubric, the first thing is I will always provide target specific tasks. My tasks need to be elaborated enough so that my students are able to understand. All kind of essential input that are required to fulfill by my students while completing that activity need to be the part of that rubric. So rubric will solve all these kind of problems. So by definition, rubric is a scoring tool that explicitly represents the performance expectations for an assignment or a piece of work. It means whenever I'm designing any task, any activity for my student, in that particular case, I need to divide that activity into number of subparts on the basis of which I'm going to provide weightage to my class students. So when I said number of subparts, say for example, a presentation skill is an activity that is given by you to your class students. So when it comes to presentation, what are the different dimensions that I need to consider? Maybe as a faculty, when I'm giving presentation activity to my student, I demanded my students to collect information from relevant and authentic resources. So when I said presentation skills, it is related to a technical course. So in a technical course, I demanded from my students to collect information from the scientific journals or authentic resources. So they will not simply search on Google or come up with the information or with the conclusion. The relevant information resources need to be collected by the student. The second expectation I have from my student is their communication, verbal as well as non-verbal. So when I said technical subject, for me in a technical subject, if my student is able to understand, if my student is able to deliver that content in their own regional language also, in that particular case, I will consider communication as a best part of that activity. So communication skill is a second important dimension that need to be considered by a faculty. As the third major dimension that I mention is maybe the use of different visual aids. So how many visual aids are available at my institute level, and how the students are integrating those visual aids in various teaching while delivering that topic. And the fourth subpart for that presentation activity is a question answer or maybe the participations of the other students in that activity. So all these components need to be considered by me. So I will divide that activity into 4 different component parts, and for this I am going to give weightage to my students. So maybe the presentation activity is of 20 minutes, so I divided that activity for 4 different dimensions. So 5 weightage can be given to that particular dimension. So rubric, basically after designing an activity, you need to divide that activity into number of component parts on the basis of which I am going to give weightage to my students. So that is the basic process of rubric. So I would like to show you one rubric sheet for your better understanding. Say for example, rubric for a seminar. So in seminar, presentation skill, information collected, then utilization of different visual aids and class participation. So seminar is a task that is being given to the students, and that task is divided into 4 different subparts on the basis of which I am going to evaluate to my students. So that is analytical kind of rubric that I use for my master's level student or for the research scholars while presenting the information. I hope the format is clear to all the participants. So anyone can reply in a chat box. Thank you very much, participants. So when it comes to rubric, this is an analytical kind of rubric. And in technical education system, most of the faculty members go by these kind of rubrics only, that is analytical, because with the help of analytical rubric, it is very much easy for us to evaluate our students. It is possible for me to provide weightage to each and every dimension, and at the end of the semester, maybe with the help of an Excel sheet or maybe by using different softwares available for a rubric where I can design rubric, define criteria. It's a no time job to evaluate the content or the final score of the students. So that is why rubric is.
Ma'am,
Yes,
some of
Manisha?
the participants want if you could just share the rubric once again.
Yes, sure.
Yes, ma'am.
So dear participants, I will forward all my presentations to Manisha, and Manisha will forward my PowerPoint presentation to you all. So that is not a problem. So we will share this content with you all. So can we proceed further?
Yes, ma'am. They say thank you and thank you so much.
Now the question arises why we need to shift to rubrics. So in blended learning, when we were discussing different models of blended learning, we have discussed that there are diversity of students who are sitting into your class, and at the same time, there are different instructional strategies that can be adopted by a teacher. Say there are 25 faculty members who are working in your department, and for those 25 faculty members, maybe 5 faculty members are using some sort of a teaching strategy with a different blended model, and another set of faculty members are using different kind of teaching strategy with a different approach of a blended model. So in this particular case, at department level, you need an evaluation criteria that fulfill the needs of all the faculty members. And at the same time, when we consider that every individual learns in a different way. So when I said each of the student, whosoever is sitting into my classes, learn in a different way, it means a different kind of, rather than creating a different kind of evaluation criteria for each and every learner based on their ability, our purpose as a faculty is to develop their holistic personality. So I need that kind of evaluation criteria where all kind of skills can be evaluated among a student, and when the students are completing those activities, they are considering those dimensions as an important component to be covered. So why we need rubric? Because there are diversity of students, there are diversity of teaching approaches or different methods utilized by the faculty. So variation of the work will be there. Say there are in your computer science and engineering branch, there are 120 students, and institute divided those 120 students into two different sections, CSC1 and CSC2. The subject is same, this admission process is same, more or less the quality of the students in both the sections are same. And there are two faculty members who are teaching the same subject to the different sections. Maybe at the end of the semester, CSC1 students are able to get 80% of score in an internal assessment, while CSC2 students are able to score only 60 to 65%. So when the students' admission criteria is same, we consider the level of the students are same curriculum, same kind of infrastructure facilities. The teachers are different. Maybe their evaluation, the way they are scoring the student is altogether different. So to fulfill or to remove all these kinds of barriers, we need to consider that rubric is an important tool that help the faculty to understand the resulting spectrum of grade. It means the faculty who is teaching CSC1 and the faculty who is teaching the CSC2, they will follow the same kind of evaluation for the students. So mutually, they need to be in agreement that what kind of evaluation need to be carried out for these two sections. After the first week of your semester, with our experience, we able to know that what kind of students we have in our class. Maybe a simple case study has been given to me by for my students, that is on broken engine parts for mechanical engineering third semester student in a class. After the completion of that activity, there are three different kind of analysis carried out by three different group. One group said engine is broken, pointed out all the broken part, and they were right and stopped there. Second group agreed that engine was broken. They went on to say that why it was broken, and maybe even said that what effect the broken parts had on the rest that was not broken. And third group said yes, the engine was broken, how it was broken, pointed out all the broken part, what effect the broken parts had on the rest that was not broken, and how to fix it. So after completing that activity, when this kind of analysis came to me, I have a conclusion that the group 1 is able to identify only the ideas, means fundamental elements of dysfunctions are identified by the students, whereas group 2 is able to make connections also, means they are able to develop relationship between the factors that are identified, and cause and effect references are made. Whereas the third group also provided us the solutions for the problems situated to them in that case study. So there are three category of students who are available in my class: good, better, and excellent. So the rubric sheet, when we set scaling, depending upon the level of the students you have in your class, you need to design, or you need to decide the scale of that rubric. So excellent, good, fair, and poor. So the level of the students, the group, after grouping the students, the kind of conclusion given by the students for that activity, I will define the scale of that rubric sheet. So this particular rubric sheet is used for master's level student. We said excellent above 81%. Maybe for my graduate students, for the students who is in 5th or 6th semester right now, the excellence level, I consider that if my student is able to score more than 70%, he or she is in excellent category. So depending upon the level of the students and depending upon the type of the students you have, you need to define the scale of your rubric. So the rubric will cover all these kind of things. So what are the advantages of rubric? Consistent grading means when it comes to rubric, maybe the head of department identify few of the faculty members and provided a job to design rubric for the various internal activities. It may be practical classes, it may be project work, it may be case study analysis, even for the written assignments, what kind of criteria the department is going to follow. So a field visit, internship, so any internal activity for which you want to grade your students, or even if the teacher simply want to assess the student, you can create a rubric sheet. So initially head of department will identify faculty member and giving them a responsibility to design rubric for the various activity. Once those faculty members are able to design rubric, that particular rubric sheet will be distributed among all the faculty members of your department, and their input will be considered as an important thing to improve upon. So once the whole department is agreed upon that criteria, only then that rubric sheet is final, consider final at a department level. So that kind of, when we said a criteria that is being decided at departmental level with the consent of all the faculty members, there will be consistent grading throughout the department. And another important thing to consider is when we said na rubric, when you are assigning activity to the student, at that time only you have to provide rubric sheet to the student. So the criteria is not only known to the all the faculty member, the criteria on the basis of which you are evaluating the student, that criteria is known to your student population also. So your grading is consistent with the use of rubric. It reduces uncertainty while grading means less time consumed. What kind of uncertainty? Maybe today I'm very happy, I'm going to give above 70% marks to all my students. Yeah, tomorrow my mood may be not correct, so it will affect my evaluation also. So I will give 60 to 65% score to my class student. But once the criteria is final by the department, I need to go by that criteria only. So it will reduce uncertainty in a grading also. It can be used for variety of activities. As we earlier discussed, any internal activity for which you want to grade your student or for which you want to assess your student, you can design a rubric. When this rubric is available with the student and students are performing an activity with by referring that rubric, the teacher come to know that what are the different dimensions on which my students are not able to perform well. So next time when I'm planning for my instruction, those need to be considered important by me. So next time when I'm giving any activity to my student, that activity need to be related to the dimensions previous time the students were not able to perform. So it helps us to improve our instructional planning and delivery, and at the same time the students are monitoring and assessing their strengths and weaknesses that motivate them to improve for their performance. So this is a basic format for a rubric. In this format, there are 4 different things that we need to consider. The very first is the task description. Second is the dimensions. Third is the scale. And fourth is the description of different dimensions. So when we said a task description is not a simple criteria of performance that is being set by the teacher. So if I said na rubric task is a written assignment, that is not your task description. Task description means in that written assignment, what are your expectations as a faculty? So
Hello, Amandeep ma'am. We can't hear you. Hello.
need to know what they mean, what we mean by good behavior. So is it good behavior means, say for example, a faculty said that if you are regular, it is your good behavior. That is not true. Regular means the student is attending 99% of your classes and student performance is weak. That is not regularity in behavior. The student performance is low. When at institute level, when in academic terms we said regular means student is regular in fulfilling all the expectations of the faculty. The student is able to perform all the activities regularly. Maybe for 1 or 2 days he or she is absent, but once he joined the institute back, the student is able to submit those assignments to the faculty also. So that kind of task description need to be there in your rubric, which will complete the all the details related to the behavior. So when it comes to a task description, say changing research culture in engineering. So it's a presentation that is given by me for my master level student. So it's a in a task description, I will clearly mention to my student that each student, so they need not to be work in groups. Every individual student will make 5-minute presentation on the changes in research culture in engineering over the past 5 years. How much information the student need to collected? 5 years. How much time given to the students to present? Only 5 minutes. It means the student need to focus upon that what kind of data I need to represent in my PowerPoint presentation, that within 5-minute time period it is possible for me to explain the changes. The student may focus presentation in any way. It means the student can use graph, the student can use tables, the student can simply give references, but there must be a thesis of some sort of chronology. Say one student is providing me a data said in 2015 the research culture was like that, and in 2020 the research culture is like that. That is not what I demanded. I said chronological approach need to be used by the student started from 2015, 16, 17, 18 and so on. So the presentation will include appropriate photographs, maps, graphs and other visual aids for the audiences. So task description is not only the nature of the activity. As a faculty, what are your expectations from that rubric? You need to describe all those dimensions in writing to the students. We have seen many of the NB accredited institutions, when they prepare rubrics for their students, many of the faculty members simply copy paste rubric from different internet resources. After interacting with their students, many of the team members come to know that the rubric is just on paper and pen. This kind of evaluation is not carried out by the faculty. So once the students are interacting with the team of experts, the experts come to know that what kind of activity is given to the student. If the teacher is giving written assignment again and again, how much variety the teacher is introducing in assessment and evaluation system. So for a written assignment, when the assignment is given back to the student after evaluation, the student has submitted the assignment in the initial phase of the semester and teacher is not providing the assignment to the candidate after the submission up to the end of the semester. Only the marks, only the internal score is being given to the student. It means the institute, the department faculty is not following the criteria as per rubric guidelines. And when we are copy pasting information from different internet resources, the teacher who prepared that rubric, maybe the level of the student is way different from the students at present we have in our technical education system. So you need not to copy the content. You can refer to the rubrics available. There are number of rubrics available on Google. So you need to consider that what dimension is appropriate for my student and what kind of scaling need to be there. So that need to be considered by a teacher. Next is the second major thing that we need to consider in case of rubric is a scale. So describe how well or poorly any given task has been performed. Scale can be up to 3 levels. Scale can be up to 5 level. But if you are new to this system, always go by 3 level of the scale. That is good, better, and excellent. Positive terms need to be used and non-judgmental and non-competitive language need to be used. I can use fail for my master's level student, but for my BTech level student, the scale need to be needs improvement. So non-judgmental, non-competitive and positive kind of terminologies need to be used by a student. So why there is a need of when it comes to a positive terminology, mainly when we are in the process of designing qualitative scaled rubric for assessment purposes in my class, I will go by positive language only. So in teaching learning practices, specifically in various technical institutions, how our students get motivated, the way the faculty behaving in a class, the way the faculty interacting with the students, and at the same time when your evaluation is transparent enough to attract the student, because practically the motivation for the students to come to your classes to have good marks. So if the student is clear that if I will perform, only then my teacher is going to give me marks, the student will be more attentive. So for my master level student, I can use fail, because if that student is not able to present at this age or at this level, that student is not able to perform further. So maybe one or two students are taken that opportunity, but I need to shake those candidates that you need to improve right now within that institute only. So by considering the level of the students, again, we need to go by the scaling of that rubric sheet. So in a task description, if it is it's not a task description, it is simply the nature of the activity. For an oral presentation, maybe the kind of language that need to be used by a teacher as far as qualitative rubrics are concerned: excellent, competent, and needs work. So that kind of terminology to motivate your students need to be selected by the teacher. Another is dimensions. Dimensions are simply the division of the activity into number of subparts, and subparts will be clearly defined in all the aspects, described in such a way that it will be easy for the students to understand. So when it comes to dimension, literature suggests that maximum 5 dimension need to be used by the faculty, or if the activity is for a longer period of time, in case of say project work, the activity maybe have 2 to 3 different evaluations carried out at institute level. A separate rubric sheet can be prepared for each presentation, and at the end of the semester, the score of these rubric sheet can be added for a final score of the student. So when it comes to a dimension, maximum 5 will be there, and if the activity is of a longer length, at any cost, the activity will not be divided in more than 8 dimensions on a single time, because if the teacher will divide the activity into number of dimension, there are chances that there is an overlapping of the dimension and the time used for the evaluation will be more, not only for the teacher but also for the student to fulfill all the dimension. So we need to consider, say when I said presentation skill, for the teacher who is teaching the subject of communication skill, the presentation skill activity has different meaning. For me who is teaching a technical subject, for me the presentation skill have a different kind of a meaning. So I need to consider when I'm describing my different dimensions that what kind of explanation is required based on that activity. For a communication skill teacher, presentation skill, the maximum weightage need to be given to verbal as well as non-verbal communication, and maybe technical faculty is in the demand to give maximum weightage to the first dimension, that is information collection. So this dimensions need to be classified in a simple way so that it is easy for the student to understand, because when the student is working in his or her personal time, at that time the student is referring your rubric sheet, you are not available with the student. So simpler the language, it will be easy for the student to understand. So description of dimension we have already cleared. So say in the initial phase of our discussion, when I said case study for a broken engine, so the student need to fulfill that case study analysis in a 25 minutes of time, and you student have to provide a written document as per the criteria provided to you. So 10-point activity, that is clarity and application. Scale is divided into 3 parts, started from good, better, and then excellent, and then a simple dimension is given to the description is given to the student, because it is in class activity and we do not want to spend more than 35 minutes for this activity. So all these things need to be considered by our teacher. So before proceeding further, my request to all the participants, if there is any question, you are most welcome to ask. Any clarification that is required at the part of the participants. Yes, my request to all the participants, is there any question? What do you mean
Madam,
by
can I ask a
positive?
question?
Give me a minute, ma'am. One participant asked, what do you mean by positive? When I said positive terminology means it is not only in case of your evaluation and assessment criteria. Whenever the teacher is using any language in a class, either a verbal or a non-verbal language, you need to be positive enough. Say for my technical student, when academic pressure is too much, not only for the student, but also on the teacher to complete syllabus on time, it is not possible for me to engage 10 to 15 minutes of discussion every day in my class so that my students will get motivated. How my students are get motivated? If I said this time you are not able to improve your quality of work, next time we will work together and it will be possible for you to improve your performance. So it's a positive kind of feedback that I'm providing to my student. It's a combination of positive and negative, but the language that is being used by a faculty is a positive one. So a positive terminology, a positive language has a more impact on student engagement rather than your negative terminology, either in a verbal language or in your written evaluation tools. If for the same student I said last time also you have not performed, you not perform well for the activity, and this time also you are not going to put any effort, that I know. So the kind of feedback that is being given to the student is only negative. So these kind of practices need not to be followed by the student. So positive means when we are going to define scale started from the level of excellence up to the level of fair, based on the level of your student, you need to consider that the kind of feedback that I'm providing to my student, it must be a combination of positive and negative feedback. So that need to be considered. If you want to have a more elaborated details on that, on YouTube, one recorded lecture on feedback is available. So you can go through the details that what we mean by positive. Another question is, what are the limitations of rubric in prospect of teachers and student? If your rubric is well designed and well planned, and if at departmental level you have decided that evaluation criteria, there is no limitation in your rubric. That is why this particular tool is introduced nowadays in many institutions. When at the end of the semester, many of the private universities are saying that you need to pass to your student. In that particular case, it is difficult for the faculty to fulfill all the expectations of the management. So if the criteria is initially decided and followed at departmental level, then these kind of hurdles will not be there for the faculty. So you need to design rubric by your own at your departmental level. Please do not copy paste rubric from the different resources. That rubric will not serve the purpose. Yes, ma'am. This one participant.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Can
please
I
go
ask
ahead, ma'am.
question?
Yes, sure, ma'am.
Yeah. So, madam, identifying rubrics and then evaluating with the help of rubrics is going to take a good amount of time, and it's a continuous process. Like if I'm taking laboratory, and for that laboratory, like I'm meeting students 4 hours in a week, then it is quite possible for me to evaluate each and every rubric which I have identified for that particular laboratory. But there are some students who are participating in so many extracurricular and co-curricular activities, and because of that they may not attend some of the lectures or some of the practicals. In that case, like some students are like they are all rounder, like they do complete the activities, but we don't get enough time to evaluate with reference to these rubrics. So what is your suggestion for such students, because we do want to give them marks, but many of the times some of the rubrics are not satisfied by them, because like say if I have a rubric called regularity or punctuality basically, but they are not attending because they are involved in hackathon or some college level committees, and they are participating over there, they have been given responsibilities. So in that case, for those students, should we like create another set of rubrics, or like how to evaluate them basically?
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your question. It's a very pertinent question. When we said that at institute level, we need to develop holistic personality of our student. And you said that regularity and punctuality, we have earlier discussed this issue also. When I said regularity, regularity is not that all the time the student is available in your class. That we need to understand. The criteria is already finalized that 70% or maybe at your institution level 75 or 85% of attendance is compulsory. It means not even a single student need to attend 100% of your classes. And if the rubric criteria is followed at your departmental level, regularity means the student need to submit that activity on time. Regularity doesn't mean that the student need to be there in class all the time. Blended classrooms, flipped classroom, or in traditional classrooms also, the student, as per the attendance criteria only, they need to spend time in a classes. This flexibility is given to the candidates by the policy maker. When we said regularity, when you are going to prepare your academic calendar, that academic calendar need to be shared with the students also. The students who are performing well in other extracurricular activity, it doesn't mean that they will not perform the activity designed for them as far as their academic guidelines are concerned. This issue need to be taken care of at departmental level, that maybe for extracurricular activity 5 additional marks will be there for the students to encourage the student to be the part of these activities, but it doesn't mean that the student is not going to fulfill that academic criteria. Say you said in practical classes most of the students are not available sometimes because of the other activities. Why the students are not available in laboratory classes? Because we as teacher not able to plan laboratory practices more effectively for our technical students. That is why the word of work is accepting our student, and the rate is very minimal, because our students are mainly focused on theory lecture, theory classes, because maximum weightage is given to those things rather than the practical classes where the teacher is divided the student into groups. The students are following the cooked recipe. The internal evaluation as well as the external evaluation of that practical activity is also carried out by the internal faculty. So once the student know that this is the criteria on the basis of which I am going to get marks, The student may not be available in your laboratory, but the student asks the teacher that at what time it is possible for me to complete that activity because I need to score good marks. So at departmental level, under your academic guidelines and disciplinary action, you need to consider it as important that if the student is not available for the academic things to perform, that student will lose marks in that particular dimension. So we are not going to design different type of rubric for each and every candidate. The criteria will be same for all the students at departmental level, and students will be forced to follow that criteria. If you are providing leverages to the students, they will not come to you and attend your classes. So it must be fixed, and strict disciplinary actions need to be taken by the departmental faculty. Another important thing to consider here is when we talk about rubric, it is not like when we said practical class. Practical class will be for third semester student. Practical classes will be for fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and eighth semester student. For each and every class, there are practical classes as far as technical subjects are concerned. So when I said practical sheet rubric, the rubric will be same. So the dimensions of the rubric will be same. Sorry, ma'am. Many of the participants are asking about share your screen. At present, we are discussing this question only asked by ma'am. So there is nothing important on the screen. So when we talk about a rubric for a practical work at departmental level, only one rubric for practical classes will be designed by the faculty. So you need to consider that what are the important dimensions as far as practical sheet for rubric classes are concerned. Practical is evaluated in terms of product evaluation, initially process, how the students are performing that activity, the kind of product the students need to be generate, the general behavior of the student, and the fourth is the viva voce, that is again an essential condition fixed by the policymakers. So these are the four major dimensions for a practical work in rubric sheet: process evaluation, product evaluation, general behavior of the student, and then viva voce conducted for the student. So when I said practical rubric sheet for third semester student, so under excellent category, maybe the student who is able to score more than up to in between 70 to 60%, he or she is in excellent category. For fifth and sixth semester student, I consider 80 to 90% category is excellent. And then for final year student, I consider 90 to 100%. Whosoever is able to receive is in excellent category. So dimension will be same, description will be same. I'm just going to change the scale of that rubric. So that need to be considered. If most of the students are in extracurricular activities involved in various things at your institute level, maybe some weightage given to those candidates, maybe 2 marks or 5 marks, but it doesn't mean that they will not fulfill the academic criteria. That is a major objective need to be for the student and faculty to achieve at institute level. Can small deviation from rubric is allowed? Once your criteria is with the faculty and once the criteria is distributed among all the students, there is no possibility available with the faculty or with the institute to deviate from that criteria. I don't know, but in many of the university in northern region of India, there is an RTI facility given to the students. The students can challenge their evaluation. So when we said evaluation with the help of rubric and the criteria is already known to the student, no small deviation is allowed. So we do not have any other question with us right now. So we'll move forward for our next discussion on the rubric. That is, what are the different types of rubric? Now the question arises, when we said it is possible for me to design rubric for my written assignment, it is possible for me to design rubric for case study analysis, any technique that you develop for your internal evaluation, it is possible for you to design a rubric. Say I want to assess my student class performance, and there are 60 students. Every student is working individually. So how I'm going to evaluate with the help of rubric? Rubric is a time consuming process initially. Once you are accustomed with this particular process, it is very easy for us to evaluate students. Another is the teacher who are teaching only numerical ability based subjects, say the faculty from mathematical branch, faculty from optimization technique, faculty from any another subject that involve more of numerical ability of the student. So in this particular case, the only one thing that need to be decided at departmental level, what will be your evaluation criteria? Is it step by step evaluation, or you are going to give marks to the student if the student is able to provide you an correct answer? So that kind of rubric is considered as holistic type of a rubric. So this particular slide is taken from internet only to show you all. So when I said rubric for problem identification, maybe in a classroom, I'm using futuring and visioning technique for my master's level final year students, and the student need to identify an advanced problem from their specified field. So problem identification in a classroom activity. So I want to assess the creative abilities of my student. So holistic kind of rubric is developed by me and distributed among my class students with the help of LMS. So 5, 4, 3, 2. So simply the students, when they are presenting that thing to me, I will simply provide them the score. The rubric is already available with them on a LMS. Mathematical faculty can use this kind of rubric. So these kind of rubrics are considered as holistic rubric, and for numerical based subject, it is used for their internal evaluation, and rest of the faculty members can use these type of rubric sheet for their classroom assessment. So communication skill faculty can also use holistic rubric for their speaking skill in a classroom activity. So three simple skills defined by the faculty: exceed expectations, meet expectations, and fail to meet expectation, and then a simple description is provided to the students. As far as Indian technical education is concerned, till date, I have come across that many of the institution, many of the faculty members restrict themselves only up to analytical type of a rubric that we have discussed earlier also. In analytical type of a rubric, we divide activity into number of dimension and then scale according to the level of the student. It is used for a qualitative also, it is used for quantitative analysis also. So description of the dimension need to be given very clearly in analytical kind of rubric. So the one thing that I would like to highlight over here is when it comes to providing description in analytical kind of rubric, it is being said that rubric is a game of language. Why it is a game of language? Say I said you need to explain excellent level. It is very much easy for you to explain the level of excellence for the activity. It is very much easy for all of us to explain the poor level of that activity. But when it comes to distinguish between good and fair, it is bit difficult. So what we mean by good, what we mean by fair, the student need to have clear understanding of your written words. So whenever we are providing description, it need to be detailed enough so that the students are able to distinguish between the good and fair or between the good and excellent. Say for presentation skill, the student is excellent if he hold attention of entire audiences with the use of direct eye contact, seldom looking at notes, excellent communication skills, speaks in voice modulation to maintain audience interest, and emphasize key points and make best utilization of time. The student is in fair category if he or she display less eye contact with audiences, reading partially from the notes and slides, and speak in uneven volume, not very good communication skill, and at a poor level if displays minimal eye contact with audience while reading mostly from the notes and slides, and speaks in uneven volume with little or no inflection. So each and every dimension needs under scale need to be clearly defined by the student. So for your information, the faculty members who undergo 8 modules for AICTE NINIT policy For those candidates, once they are able to clear those modules, and in a second term evaluation, when mentor is assigned to those candidates, the mentor will evaluate the performance of the faculty, performance of the inductee teacher on the basis of analytical kind of rubric only, because these modules were developed at NITR Chandigarh, Chennai and NITR Bhopal. So each and every module carrying one rubric that will be used by the mentor. That rubric is of analytical. That rubric is of analytical by nature, and the mentor will evaluate your performance for a respective module on the basis of that rubric only. So this is the most used rubric as far as our Indian technical education system is concerned. Rubric is not new in our Indian system, but many of the good universities, mainly the private universities, are able to develop the culture of designing their evaluation criteria with the help of rubric. But my request to the faculty members who are preparing rubric for your institute, for your students, every year when students enroll with you, you need to consider that what kind of scale we need to use. It is not that once the rubric is prepared, you are going to use that rubric again and again. Based on the quality of admissions you have at your institute level, you need to manipulate the scale also. So it may be 100 to 670% in excellent, for some institution 100 to 90, for another institution 100 to 80. So based on the level of the student, we need to manipulate the scale of the rubric, but we are not going to change the dimension, or in simple terms, the nature of that activity. So rubric, analytical kind of rubric is being used. Task specific rubrics are we are using when the activity is divided into two or three parts, say project work, identification of a project work, one rubric need to be prepared. When the students are presenting their methodology or plan, second rubric need to be prepared, and then the final presentation, the rubric on execution of the project work need to be prepared at departmental level. If your project work is of 600 marks, 200 marks for each rubric, at the end of the semester you are going to evaluate by sum up of the three scores obtained by the students in that work. So that task specific rubrics are basically used. Next is developmental kind of rubrics. There is one university in Gurgaon. I don't want to name that university, but that university is using developmental kind of rubric to evaluate the performance of their faculty member. Periodical evaluation is there. After each 3 months, a rubric sheet is given to all the faculty members where they need to self-assess their performance, and they will submit that rubric sheet, assessed rubric sheet, to the head of department, and head of department along with the senior faculty members again assess the performance of that faculty. Then the faculty will be called upon, and the strength and weaknesses will be strength and weaknesses are discussed with that faculty member. The purpose is they want to develop their faculty. They want the faculty to develop not only their professional dimension but also their personal growth. So developmental kind of rubrics can be used by the department to assess the performance of their faculty. Developmental kind of rubric can be prepared by an institute if he or she want to undergo a process of accreditation. So as per the policies of your accreditation board, you need to design rubric and periodically you need to evaluate, so that there is a clear picture in front of the management that what are the different areas on which we need to focus more. Developmental rubric can also be used for weaker students of your class. Say, for example, in the initial phase after the internal test 1, you come to know that there are 3 students who are not regular in attending the classes, who are not the part of any activity at institute level, and they are not even able to perform well in their academic conditions. It means those students need an attention by the department. They need counseling, they need guidance, not only from the faculty, but family also plays an important role in this particular case. So head of department need to design a developmental rubric for those candidates and periodically review the performance of that candidate. The head of department can instruct the faculty that what kind of additional activities need to be planned for this candidate and what kind of disciplinary actions need to be there for the candidate. So developmental rubric can be designed specifically for the candidates who are not well performing at your institute. It can be designed by the management for the performance of the faculty. It can also be designed by the management to evaluate the strength and weaknesses of your institution. So developmental rubrics more or less are used in restricted conditions. Say to increase the teaching effectiveness, there are different dimensions classified, and then the scales: maximum degree, significant degree, to some extent not at all, and not applicable to the course. So by considering all the provisions of that particular subject, the different dimensions have been classified by the senior faculty members of the department. So it will help the teacher to improve the effectiveness in teaching. So when it comes to developing rubric, there are 4 different stages: reflecting, listing, grouping and labeling, and application. I think all these stages are very much clear to all of us. So what we mean by reflecting? Reflecting means how many subparts will be there for this activity. If it is a presentation scale, as we earlier discussed, only 4 dimensions will serve the purpose. If it is your project work, maybe 8 dimensions are sufficient enough. So once I classify that what is the objective of this activity and what kind of learning outcomes I want to achieve with the help of this activity, we need to reflect what are the different stages that the student need to pass through. So that is your reflecting stage. Next is listing. Now the one faculty said communication skill, one faculty said verbal communication skill is one dimension and non-verbal communication is another dimension. When I'm presenting verbally in a physical space, nowadays classroom is considered as a physical space. So when I'm presenting information in a physical space, at that time only the faculty and rest of the class students are able to observe my non-verbal behavior. So I will not go by the 2 different dimensions. I will club those dimensions. So under communication, verbal and non-verbal explanation need to be given in the description box. So that is listing. Grouping and labeling. So when I said process evaluation in a practical activity, what we mean by process evaluation? The student is able to identify equipments and materials required for the process. They are able to know the procedure of that activity. They must know what kind of safety precautions they need to follow to perform that activity. And when it comes to process, it is not only to conduct that experiment, it is also the data analysis part. So rather than writing identification and optimum utilization of material is one dimension, the student is able to perform activities a second dimension, the student is able to fulfill the safety precaution criteria, that is third dimension. Rather than going by 3 dimension, I will simply write process evaluation. So whatever the part of the process that will be clubbed under 1 dimension, that is considered as grouping and labeling. And the most important part when it comes to design rubric is weightage for the different dimension. I need to consider what percentage, what weightage I need to give these different dimensions. When I said presentation skill, for a technical faculty, presentation skill may be the maximum weightage I'm going to give to my student for information collection rather than for communication skill. A CSC faculty or faculty who is preparing students for job interview like training and placement officer, they said information collection is not important for my student. The way they present themselves is more important. So information must also have some weightage, but the maximum weightage I will give to the communication part. So application, what is the objective of your activity that need to be defined at the departmental level. So why they are useful? It is clear and transparent. timely. When the teacher is not available with the student, the rubric will serve as a feedback tool for the students also. So they can take guidance from the rubric. These are appropriate and reflective, honest and supportive. They focused on learning and enabling. Say in my class, one student want to shift his grade from C to B, and in presentation skill I have given maximum weightage to the information collection. So rather than designing, rather than structuring and giving maximum time for the preparation of PowerPoint slide, my student will spend more time to collect relevant information, because my purpose is my student is able to identify literature from different scientific resources. So rubrics not only provide an enabling and engaging environment for the learners, but it also helps them to focus towards their goals. So that is why it is being said that rubric is very useful tool to consider by all of us as far as evaluation is concerned. So checklist means, does the rubric relate to the outcome being measured? So it is being said that if you want to improve your teaching learning practices, improve your evaluation first. So it's a reverse engineering kind of thing. If you are able to define the evaluation criteria specifically, it is easy for you to plan and deliver the instructions. The kind of assessment, the kind of critical thinking skill that you need to develop, does your rubric reflect that? So you said creativity, I'm going to evaluate creative ability of my student. How you are going to evaluate those creative ability? The chance that is available with the faculty may be by giving project work to the student. In the project work, the students will identify unique problem and unique solutions for a given problem. So what is your purpose? What kind of thinking skill you need to develop? Accordingly, the rubric need to be designed. Does it cover the important dimension of student performance? Do the criteria reflect current conceptions of excellence in the field? Does the rubric reflect what you emphasize in your teaching? Does the highest scale point represent a truly exemplary performance or a product? Are the dimensions or scales well defined? Is it clear to everyone what each scale measure? Is there a clear basis for assigning score at each scale point? Is it clear exactly what a student need to do to get a score at each scale point? So all these things we need to consider when it comes to design a rubric. When the rubric is being used for the class assessment, our purpose is not to penalize or reward the student. Our purpose is to improve the quality of the work produced by the student. But in case of evaluation, if we are using rubric as a scoring tool, there may be chances that the students who are not good performer are going to be penalized. So this is all about this particular session, the design of rubric. Another important thing that I would like to say here is, there are many tools available on rubrics. On Google Classroom also, the very simple one that need to be used by the faculty in the initial phases. On your Google Classroom, there is a facility to design a rubric. It is a very easy process. There are many YouTube videos available. Even without seeing those videos, you are capable enough to design rubric on the Google Classroom. Another reference that you can take from internet as far as rubrics are concerned, Ruby Star. I have written in a chat box also. On Ruby Star, there are many rubric sheets available. Project work, practical work, communication skills. So many of the rubric sheets are available on Ruby Star. So while preparing your rubric sheet, if you are new for this system, you can simply go to that platform, check their rubric sheets designed by the team, and then accordingly you can tailor make those rubric sheet. So this is all from my side. If any of the participant already working on rubric and need any kind of clarification, I've provided my email in the chat box. You can write and send your rubric sheet to us. We will provide feedback to you from NITR Chandigarh. So is there any question? So thank you very much, all the participants. There is one link that is provided to Manisha. I request all the participants, whenever you have time, kindly fill that Google form. The purpose to provide that Google form to all of you is to know your level of understanding as far as cooperative and collaborative learning strategies are concerned. So when you are able to fill that form and send back to me, I will provide my feedback on that form also to all of you. So thank you very much, all the participants, for your patience.